I'm going to try to share something with everybody on these HEI distributors inside of these crossfire injection engines on the '84 Corvette. And I'm kind of hoping I can do it through just through illustrations in the factory service manual, as opposed to having to go out and take my distributor off and everything. Mainly because one thing, it's 30 degrees outside, and number two, it's just kind of not something I really want to get involved in right now. But anyway, where I was going with this video was how to test the pickup coil down inside of the distributor. But in order to in getting there, I was going to just go over a couple other things, because if you're having problems with the car runs and it'll drive for 10 minutes or so, and then it cuts off, and when it cools down it'll start back up. These are, if it was me and somebody were asking me, and if it were my car, the first place I would look, because of heat causing problems, I would look at the distributor. So that's basically where I was going here. And I apologize for the shaky camera, but I don't have a lot of fancy equipment with tripods, etc., to do things, so I just do the best that I can. But this is this particular test right here is testing the ignition coil. This is a coil and cap distributor, these HEI distributors on the Crossfire. And here it is. This is the distributor cap turned upside down. There's the ignition coil in the center, and your connectors out here, which would be right here, C and B. So what you can do is you can take a multimeter and you can connect, just put it on ohms. You should be up around 2,000 ohms, because that's what you're going to be looking for. You put one lead to your C terminal and one lead over on your B terminal. And what they're saying in the factory service manual is your reading should be 0 or nearly 0. If not, replace the coil. But it's also saying don't replace your coil until you do test number 2, which would mean take one lead, put it on the center post on your ignition coil, and then another lead on your ground, and see if both readings are infinite, then you need to replace the coil. If both readings are infinite, then you need to replace the coil. So that's how you get started on testing getting started testing inside of your distributor. You should be able now, once you've got your cap disconnected from your actual distributor, you should be able, without removing any of the wires, the spark plug wires or anything, with just disconnecting the C and B connector, you should be able just to take your distributor cap and just lay it aside a little bit, which will bring you down to taking off the rotor. Once you get to this point where you've set your distributor cap aside and you've taken your rotor off, make sure when you take your rotor off you remember how it's oriented. Otherwise you can actually swing it around and have it put it back on 180 degrees. But you're going to see there will be a little capacitor right here, a little cylinder, a little silver cylinder. That is a radio noise suppression capacitor. So don't worry about that. Just forget about it. Leave it alone. What you'll see your ignition control module sitting right here. And then on that ignition control, coming off of that ignition control module, you should have two connectors over on this side right here. One of them right here is just a 2-wire pickup coil. This is your pickup coil leads connector right here from your pickup coil module. You'll see right here is you'll have a 2-wire connector. That is the pickup coil connector. It has 2 wires and it connects into the right here on the ignition control module, 2 prongs. This other one over here is a 4-prong connector that goes directly to 4 terminals on the electronic control module. That's over on this side. You can disconnect your pickup coil connector. Just pull it out and just set it up and leave it open. And then you take a multimeter, set it ohms, 2,000 ohms, because you're going to be looking for somewhere between 500 and 800 ohms. And you take your multimeter and you put one lead to one terminal, and then the other lead to the other terminal. And what you would be looking for is, you should see somewhere between 500 and 1,500 ohms, somewhere in there. The other test that you need to do before you just say, well, I've got a bad pickup coil because I don't see 500 to 1,500 ohms, is you take one of the leads on your multimeter, put it on one of the either one of the terminals in the connector, and then the other lead you put on. I put it on the rim of the distributor, the base of the distributor, and then on that one you should see it should read infinite, no end. If you get those readings on this test, your pickup coil is good. If you don't, then you've got a defective pickup coil. But you can also kind of look down in there and look at the plastic on the pickup coil and see if it's got teeth on it, and see if any of them are cracked or worn. It's got a magnet on it. You can look and see if the magnet is cracked. Here is the pickup coil disassembled in diagram form, but actually, in order to get the pickup coil, here's the magnet, here's the pole piece with the teeth on it right here, and here's the pickup coil with your terminal. But actually, in order to get the pickup coil out of the distributor, you have to take the entire distributor out. That gets into, that's quite a project. But here's something that you'll see in the factory service manual when it discusses the ignition control module, which again sits right here inside the distributor. Apply silicone lubricant here. And it's referenced in the factory service manual several times. Another issue inside of this distributor that causes problems is this ground connector right here. It should be just a small piece of metal, and then when you plug your bottom connector, when you plug your connector into that terminal, sometimes that will come loose, or it doesn't make a good connection. And if that's vibrating and not making a good connection, that'll give you a lot of problems too. So you have to be sure that when you plug in your ground connector to C and B on this, it's making really good connection. But the aftermarket ignition control modules are really not, they're really not what they used to be in the old days. You have to be careful which one you get and put in there. You can put one in there and 2 or 3 months later it's no good anymore. And actually, the same thing goes for these ignition control modules. They're not what they used to be. So I hope I hope this helps somebody out You know, it's kind of difficult. I'm not a professional videographer. I don't do very good. I do the best I can, but you know, these are simple tests you can run on the distributor, because again, I'll say it again, if your car starts up really good, runs for about 10 minutes, gets hot, shuts off, then when it cools down, it starts back up again. My guess it would be inside of this distributor somewhere, because the electronic control module is not going to get hot.